Namaskar, everyone. This is Dr. Sunil Anandatheertha from UK, from Coventry. We are now coming up with a new video in the sense of in the series of Nanarjana series of educational videos. This video is uniquely interesting in the fact that we are not focusing on anything academic, but rather what supports academics. We are trying to understand what are some of the problems and issues that the modern day Kannadiga or the person coming from Karnataka who may not be recognizing themselves as Kannadiga yet are facing in the world, especially when they come outside, and also in the modern, modern, what can I say, modernistic environment, either in the home or in the office, whether you are in Bangalore or in any other place in Karnataka like Mysore, Bellary, or whatever, right? There are certain groups of issues which are common for everywhere, and then we are trying to identify them up, and then we are to name them and then tag them, and then we are trying to come up with some kind of a solution so that people can overcome them easily. And then what are the motivation factors are there why we really need to overcome these? So with this introduction to the topic, I would like to introduce Veerendra Kolhar. Sir, could you like to please say a couple of words about yourself?
Thank you very much. It was great, and the way you have given me that, the introduction things. I think you have taken me already into skies. Okay, so yeah. First and foremost, thanks for giving me an opportunity to be a part of this program, and to the best of my knowledge, I will try to put across a bit based on the interactive sessions. And coming back, my name, I'm Veerendra Kolhar. I'm basically a native of Bagalkot, okay, which is a north part of Karnataka. I'm born and brought up in Haraye, Davangere, okay, and studied at Haraye Polytechnic School, which is a well-known school across that in and around town and places. And I'm like it's small town where we grew up and did our education. Then I mean in and around during the time of 70 to 80s, where that is the time we went into school education. So we did get our parents gave us the best of the best at their level, the education, and we feel proud today. Whatever they have put their steps and hard-earned money into us, today we are able to be here, and it's whatever we have is nothing in front of them. So that's the thing. And post that, I was moved to Bagalkot, and I did my diploma engineering there in telecommunications, and studied up. Then for period of time to work, I came to Bangalore. Then gradually got into that. Then traveled across India, like places like Pune, worked there. Then I got an opportunity to travel on the professional work on a business trip to Hamburg. So got that exposure. That was my first on-site. Then over a period of a year, came to UK, and since last 5.5 years, I'm in UK working with the various clients. And also, apart from this, we are into different social activities where, I mean, the COVID, which recently happened, although a bad thing, but it has also given us an opportunity to learn many of the things where we are connected through virtual. One is the live example which we are currently going through. So that brought us to a program called as Kannada Kali, and today I feel proud that I'm a part of that. We are along with our friends and which we started, and it's great opportunity and honor that even Sunil Anandatheertha is also a teacher, and proud moment to say that. So we run this across UK, which is virtually connected on every Sunday. So with this, I'm fine. Thank you again.
In fact, it's our pleasure that we have Kolar with us here because, he has been so instrumental in getting things together, especially in trying to outreach Karnataka or Karnataka culture or even Kannada language to the to the young generation of, what can I say? I don't want to say use the word immigrants. Let me use the new word called expats from Canada who are in the UK and in other places of the world who are doing tremendous service. But this is an honest drive towards not only making our language survive, but also let it thrive amongst our youngsters so that they can carry it forward to their next generations and then on forward, so that we can ensure an unbroken continuity of our Kannada language and culture for at least a millennia from now. So this is the monumental efforts that he has been taking. We really need to pay a lot of thanks to Kolhar sir. And in fact, it's also my good pleasure to have a very good acquaintance of him from the Kannada program that we have had in Leamington Spa recently. And we are going to be focusing on a couple of questions, and answers are going to be, motivating the people and the viewers to learn more about Karnataka and more about Kannada, and then why you need to know Kannada and how you need to be interacting in Kannada, whether it be in office or whether you be in home environment. So with this, I would like to ask you the first question. Before I almost forgot, before I ask the first question, the title of this program, I have set it to something called Adunikarige Kannada, Adunikarodane Kannada, Kannadiganolu Kannada. So that means there are three stages of learning. So when you don't know what Kannada is and you have moved so far away from your roots that you are no longer in touch with Kannada, then there is still a need for Kannada. That's the first level. Then the second level is those of us who are in some kind of, dvandva sthana between Kannada and the modernism, not the so-called modernism. There is still a need of Kannada. And the third level, which is the deeper level, which is Kannadiganolu Kannada. That means that when you are deeply rooted in Kannada, then Kannada is no longer needed for you, rather it moves in you, right? It becomes a part of you. Then what is that state of Kannada in you is the last stage of Kannada, and that's where it moves and cycle backward. So the first question that I have to you, sir, is what are some of the non-emotional and non-cultural factors which motivate one to either learn or to relearn their mother tongue, which is Kannada? So either you can take this question in two parts. You can focus it on learning first, which is what we are trying to do in Kannada Kali, because youngsters, they don't have any idea about Kannada, so they are learning, and adults who have learned and then who have forgotten about it need to relearn it. So, what are the non-emotional and cultural factors for both of these segments which motivate them to learn better?
Okay, thank you. Rightly said. I will take, like as we mentioned, it bisect that same question into two parts and tell. So first part, which I would like to say, is something from where we come from with the roots. Like, see, as if you take any aspect, irrespective of the language, okay, take Kannada, take Tamil, take Telugu, or take any part of the language a person comes up. So it would be a we start our childhood with our mother tongue, where mother teaches us, who is the first teacher, teaches us, and the family members. We come up through that. So, irrespective of whichever language, we come up with that language to learn, and that is where the house makes a school, and we learn from it. And yes, we being Kannadigas, we feel proud to say this, that we learn Kannada, and those are the roots. And always, any person is always influenced by their socio environment, which a person comes up in his or her life. So that one thing comes up. And coming back to your second part of question, where yes, like if you take currently, we have been in UK from the last 5 years, where we do not have in touch of Canada. We only option is when we speak to our parents or speak to our friends back home, and when we meet our friends who are of same language or born and brought up in that language of Kannada. Apart from that, it gives an opportunity to take such moments, or when we have gatherings, rather like the functions of the various functions which you come across with the same community, we again gel with members. Although few people get influenced because it's a day-to-day talk which happens. So they get automatically influenced by English. But when we speak and we feel, we should not be hesitant to speak what we know, irrespective of how you might be wrong, but there is another person to correct it back. So with that openness in us, we need to go ahead. So this is what I can say, and we should always feel proud of the language which we have come up. Yes, the first part is our language. Then we go to other languages, like say today it's English or it might be Hindi or any other language. And as we sail together and as we sail towards different countries, always knowing an additional language is always good. And multi languages always gives an opportunity to get along based on the conditions and situations a person is in.
That is true, sir. Very, very well said. I think part of your answer, I think it also touches upon the very famous Sanskrit shloka, Janani Janmabhumi Swargadapi Gariyasi. In the same way, you can also touch upon, you can remove the Janani Janmabhumi and then you can actually say the Janani and Janma, bhaashe, Swargadapi Gariyasi. So that is also a very apt, and then what you said is 100% right, and I agree. And I think the kind of what I really see interesting that you mentioned is that it's very interesting you mentioned something about the feedback loop, right? When especially in the relearning stage and also in the learning stage. The learning stage, I guess the feedback loop is predominantly with the parents, and the next level is with the faculty who is teaching. And I think with the relearning stage, I think if you could elaborate a bit about the feedback loop mechanism, and is that is should the person go behind that, and what are the responsibilities of fellow Kannadigas who have already learned in doing this, and how exactly this should happen, because there has to be a structure in how this happens. Is this very organic, or could it be made more structured?
Yeah, thank you. And I would like to see take the words which you said, learn and relearn, or unlearn rather. Okay,
Yes.
so if you take like our own childhood or individual, any person who goes through his or her childhood, they learn. That is a stage where we learn. There is an opportunity. First is school. As I finished the home part, then we enter into school. Where is our childhood? Then we come to our the middle school, then we come to our higher school. Okay, then we enter into the college. So each of the stage we meet many of our classmates. Okay, many of them when we go around our relatives. Okay, that is a stage we always try to learn from each and everybody. Okay, this is a stage which gives an opportunity for us to explore ourselves, although we are not, I mean, today I talk so much, right, that mentioning about all this, but when it comes those childhood days, we are only given an opportunity to know, and that is the best stage. As the child goes, the mind is always open. You go on feeding it, it starts absorbing it. So that is what we do it. And when we come to a stage where we come to the place of higher secondary school, and that is a stage where we try to understand and we think about it, what is said right or is it wrong. So again, an environment which a person grows as an always an influence. Okay, if you take my case, where I just like to quote an example, where, as I mentioned already, it came up with a small town. We are in and around surroundings were all of more of small, with like people who are earning on day-to-day life. So that environment also gave us like to do something better among them. Also during that time, like when we were in the education, because we had good education like a central CBSE school, so I would take that opportunity during 10th standard to teach whatever the best I could to in and around surrounding people where they run day-to-day life and give them tuitions. So I would also feel proud that is a part of stage we start to unlearn and teach others. So always an education is something, the more we learn and the more we share it and ask, teach them, it gives us something which we always bring, I mean, I don't know touch in terms of culture apart from the caste or culture, but that comes automatically. Like we have a belief like that when we have Saraswati or we have been given an opportunity to learn through from Saraswati, that is nothing but the learning. Okay, we try to teach the same so that the Saraswati is blessed to teach others as well. So this is something which I would like to share. And as I mentioned, then we go to colleges. That is where we get further exposure to meet outside world people. Like we get to know many other people who come from different colleges. And again, there's a stage where we learn through environment, like a person, how he comes up, how he talks. He might be from different culture, like people come from north, people come from south, people come from middle east, middle of the Karnataka where I came from. So we come to know different culture and different way a person speaks as well, the way they express, or the, what I can say, the right word to say is like how I express, the way influence of Kannada may be slightly different what they speak. Like giving an example, like if you speak where I come from, that is North Karnataka, it's a bit harsh. They cut the words there and then. If you go to South, they a bit elaborate, and it will be more of soothing words and a very, like, requesting way. Okay. And if you come the same way, it comes and touches like different parts. Like as I mentioned, one is Bangalore, one is North Karnataka, Bagalkot. If you come towards Mangalore, they have got different culture. And if you come towards Gulbarga, so this is all the four places which I'm touching of a particular state of Karnataka. Okay, and coming, and as I mentioned, when we grow up, when we enter into the stage of college, that gives opportunity to now give a stage where we meet apart from our own current state, we get an opportunity to learn from other states. So these are some of the stages where we learn from people again, because we are always during school we meet our own Karnataka members. When we come to college, we meet from different people from different states of India. Okay, there might be chances that people would have come from abroad also to learn along with us. So, but I was lucky enough and also interact with people, I mean, friends, I can say, or our relatives who are from different parts of India. And that gave us again another opportunity to learn their culture, to understand their culture. Maybe something I would accept it, something may not be. But as we accept, we take it forward. As we do not accept and mutually don't agree, we leave it, but still carry out forward. So this is what I could say of the stages of learning and unlearning. And also coming to the point, today we are in a place like UK. This is a place we still unlearn and try, like as a example, the best way is Kannada Kali. So we got an opportunity, what we know and what we come up with the roots, that has the platform with, again, that has again given opportunity to interact with many members who have come from different parts of India as well as different parts of Karnataka, and that has set us again in the stage to learn as an individual, as a personal, their professional, their personal things, their professional things which they come from. I have example where I'm speaking to Sunil, who is into different, professionalism. But today, our platform which brings us common together is Kannada Kali. So this is one thing which I would like to say. And as already mentioned earlier, Kannada Kali, where we are all friends together, and many of the teachers, which who are the backbone for this particular, what I can say, the structure of organization, which we have slightly learning every year on year. And this is our second year where we are stepping into third year now, and that has come in a long way. Where we started with, as I mentioned, 25 students. Today we are at 160 students. So this is also one where we are stage of learning, how kids also learn from a teacher, how what we can do, what we can try to accommodate, how we can try to accommodate. These are some of the stages, and I feel these are the words, because I mean, if you give an opportunity to talk, I'll keep on talking. So let me cut short.
Wonderfully said. I think what I really liked is that the center of all your arguments and statements were driving desire and then passion towards what is ours, what is rightfully ours, which is our language. So I think it's also a case of use it or lose it. So the more you don't use it, the more faster you start losing it. So that's also one reason, because you don't want to end up in a state where after 10 years and then you don't even know what you have lost. So at least it is better to continue and then put our children into this Kannada Kali program and then let them start learning, and then do not come, I mean, ನಾವು ನಮ್ಮ ಮಕ್ಕಳಿಗೆ ಅವರ ವಂಚಿತರನ್ನಾಗಿ ಮಾಡಬಾರ್ದು. So that's our motive of the parents, and the motive or the main drive behind the one who is relearning stuff is the desire to relearn and to unlearn all the other bad stuff, and then to get involved in people, in interactions with Kannada and Karnataka, and then to get to learn the culture more, because language drives culture. Language is a driver of culture, and culture wouldn't be anything. You can't express culture without language. So if you want to get into Karnataka culture or Kannadiga culture, or if you want to get into anything which is in Karnataka, then you really then the only route forward is through the language, and please learn the language first. So with this, and I would like to go to the second question, which is, many people are multilingual, so am I, and so you are. So, but it does affect in our the way you think and then you way you do things, and in fact, it's been said that polyglots are good at something. So in this case, I would like to ask your opinions on how being multilingually proficient, help basically, let's consider a kid, maybe a toddler, or maybe or a 7-year-old or a 10-year-old, from a psychological perspective. How does it benefit from learning Kannada upon the other languages that they're already learning? For example, they are learning so they're learning English, and they also have foreign language, modern foreign languages courses in their schools, and learning Kannada upon it would be an added burden in many cases. So that's how many people look at it. So in which case, how not to look at it as a burden, and there has to be a one motivation factor, which is a psychological improvement. It does help in, but how does it actually play out in terms of improving the psychological perspective of the students?
Okay, before I get into this, and I would just like to take the previous question, where I mentioned, I don't know how many of you accept this, but end of the day, our culture, the way we are brought up, and the traditions, or like say, I'm trying to touch upon the place which we call it as Namma Samskruti. So what I can say, Namma Samskruti,
Very nice.
Namma
Yeah.
Bandha Kartavya, or I can say Sahitya. So these are some of the things or history which we touch upon. Okay. If for all this, the best example is our grandmother. Okay.
Hmm.
Any child, during the day course of our lifespan will never ever say no to grandmother, because grandmother are, I mean, we are always, grandfather is also there, but we always touch upon grandmother, because grandmother is one, okay, who always gives that, core thing of, if we have done a mistake, to correct it. If what is being taught of our tradition, what is being taught of our home culture, what they were in during those days, and what they have gone through, okay. So that gives again a learning for a child to think and broadens the mind, okay, how they were, what they were doing. Today also, when we read history, today we are in a place and we know so much of, a generation of modern generation where at a click of a button things happen. But there were generations where they're striving for it, they're walking towards hours together to meet the destination or the place, okay. But today we think, so today younger generation will think we are in a much better stage what our parents were, or parents were. So this is one thing also is a learning, and also they try to unlearn through this of what has been gone through. So coming back to the question which you just asked about multi-language, yes. So I would, from my opinion, if you ask me, I would say, as I already mentioned previously, knowing languages, of learning things, of learning. Today we are in UK, we learn English. Okay, a person who has been studied for higher education in France or Germany, they learn French or German. Okay, but a person, although they learn for the higher education, or when they go to their higher studies, the language they learn is going to help them towards their career. But mother tongue, or having a mother tongue Kannada or a person of that particular state is something which gives our what I can say what I can say in one word or Kannada and ಹೆಮ್ಮೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಕನ್ನಡತನ ನಮ್ಮ ಹೆಮ್ಮೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಸಂಸ್ಕೃತ ನಮ್ಮತನ that is one thing which will always deep root a person. Okay, it's him or her. Okay, it deep rootens, so that takes over generations. So you cannot have a German language, although we learn, but you cannot go to in a German to know. We'll be least interested what Germans did, what German, four generations did. But if you take our culture of Karnataka and being a Kannadiga, we'd always be interested to know what happened, with like names of rivers, Tunga, Bhadra. Like I come from a place where Tunga Bhadra is the river which flows. So when my granny was telling, Tunga is one river, Bhadra is one river. When it comes to haraye, they join together at one of the place and then do it. So these are some of the things which we come upon. So that's what I would like to say. And always knowing an additional language and reading it and taking that for the professionalism or better career is always good. I would
Right.
always say and yes, and I would always promote kids to learn and go build their career. Okay, but never ever leave your roots. So which we come from, because that is one root which connects our roots behind and what we call when we study we have a family tree. So that is the main core, that root touches that family tree.
Very true, sir. Very true. I think with a rich cultural heritage that we have, and also the language itself is so old, and with a rich 1,500-year-old language, and then there is absolutely no comparison between one of the modern languages. For example, even the language that I'm speaking in English, or the Kannada, the rich cultural heritage that Kannada has. Even if you look at the grammatical structure or the ways in which you can express your emotions and feelings in Kannada, is far too efficient when compared to other languages. That's number one. And I also believe that what you said about the dialects and everything is basically, I think there is one very important Kannada saying called Vaividyate Prakrutiya Sahaja Dharma. That means if you don't, I mean, that diversity is the essence of nature. So if you don't carry this diversity forward, you can't expect to have an appreciation towards diversity, number one. And especially with all the modern organizations moving towards a diversity, but you can't always keep pitching for one language in a diverse environment. So diverse environment, people have diverse environments, diverse languages and diverse backgrounds. We should motivate people to come with, have their roots, and then their roots being connected to their roots is very, very important, as Kolhar sir said, because if you don't know where you come from, you never know where you are going. So that is absolutely important. And then I think this very neatly goes to the leads us to the next question. From my perspective, I've always held the notion that one should be very proficient in writing, reading, and talking, right? So what is your perspective on one's lingual capacity? So is this mandatory for us to expect a student of say 10-year-old to have writing proficiency in Canada along with others, because it requires, because why I'm saying you is that I'm coming at you from the perspective of many parents. Many parents believe that, okay, yeah, we are aligning our kids to become to go into this field and to go into that field. So is this absolutely necessary for my son or daughter or even else, to enable them to go into debating, for example, to enable them into going to dancing, for example? Why should kids learn to read and write when they are good enough to talk?
Okay. Thank you. What I would suggest, or I would say with this question is, yes, when a person is already focused, that like your example you took for example of dance, okay, why should a person know her roots or the like giving an example of Kannada or Kannadiga, okay? So what I say for that, or for my, in my opinion, is that like to anything which you relate or tell, see, it's all. in you how you can turn your generation, forward generation. Okay. If you do not want, and if you think that is not going to, always it's better to, you know, rather than crying at the last minute, and, what, there's a right word which you have, what you sow, you reap, right? So that's exactly the same. So when you're sowing itself, you sow the things where it can combine our culture, our tradition, our, what I can say, nammatana, or if you can say the word, okay, Samskriti. Again, I used that previously also. So this is always, although today, like example, like me and Sunil, we are in UK, we are doing from again in during weekdays, day-to-day life, what we have come or what we have learned as a professional. But when we connect, we talk about our culture. That is what I can say, and the example which I could. So this example that I'm trying to relate here is that when we connect, we talk more about what happened in Karnataka, what happened in the place, how that helped us, and how that is giving an thought process. Oh, we are not able to do here, but they have done so much. This is our tradition, so that connects us. If you're not doing it, then tomorrow you will, that dies along with you, that is doesn't get passed on to the next generation, and the same carries over, so you'll be missing your roots. So in my opinion, roots are always good. So a tree, a plant cannot be without a root. So if that is, then it becomes an artificial life.
Very true, sir. Very true. Thank you so much. And I think it is very, very essential to know all facets of a language, and it's not just being enough to talk. So they should be knowing some background information. Say, for example, if you know only how to talk, you cannot go deeper into the language. You can't take it forward on an intellectual level. You can only it'll only probably enable you to express a bit of your emotions, but nothing beyond it. But I think this very easily leads us to the next question as well. So, most of us, I wouldn't consider myself as an expert at Kannada in any way. I wouldn't even consider, I would rather consider myself as a beginner. In the proper sense of a word in the Kannada, right? But in which case, speaking of literature, what are some of the entry points for a person who would like to rekindle their, learning curves in Canada?
See, coming and touching the point which you said, any person, I am not an expert or I'm a beginner. So, what I believe is that each day we learn. There are days we learn through our kids. We have learned from our ancestors, like as I mentioned, like grandmother or grandparents rather, and what they gave us and they taught us and their stories which they used to give. So, those are the first dot which connects to our literature. Okay, so this is where I can bring, because each dot which we come across, those dots connect, and learning is something which is never ending. So we learn, whatever we learn is always less, and the thoughts, the process, or ideas, we read or we come across many today. We see many movies, okay, many cultural movies, or it doesn't mean that it is not wrong that today watch a Kannada movie and I feel proud about a Kannadiga being done. In a similar way, I watch another Telugu movie, a Tamil movie, a Malayalam movie, or an English movie, but that again has their own inner parts which we learn from that as well. Okay, so that so having a wide nature of wide culture and wide thoughts will give a more broadening way for a person to think and make decisions. So that is where the dot of literature, okay, again a word called as Samskriti, falls as a major thing in a person's life.
Very true, sir. Very true. Thank you for that. I think what you highlighted is very essential, and it's kind of saying drawing an analogy with a river. Canada is like a river. You can go at it. You can either jump at it in its fastest stream, which is going to be very hard, but you can also make an entry to a stream. So it depends on where you enter. But I was, as Viru sir already suggested, I think it's better to enter the river of Kannada through a stream rather than let's taste the waters first and then understand how we could use these into our language and how it's going to be much more efficient in other things. And I think that's a very good entry point to learning more about Kannada. And I think there are two approaches, to learn Kannada. One is an immersive approach, and another one is a theoretician's approach. I mean, of course, there are many other approaches. Theoretician's approach is like, okay, yeah, you start off with addition, then you go to multiplication, then you go to division, then you go to square roots, then you go to cube roots, then you go to log, then you go to integration, differentiation, and then differential equations, and you go on and on and on. That's the actual route. But an immersive way of learning would rather be very practical sessions where if you meaning not you, but if the person who is studying to learn Kannada is put in a group of 4 or 5 people who are well versed in Kannada, and then you try to interacting with them, and then you start taking baby steps. So the learning curve might be a bit steep, but there is of course a difference in the ways of learning. So what do you suggest to the current modern generation?
Before again, see this because always when we talk and when we finish and when you're trying to take the next question, always I feel that I have missed something which I had to tell before. So that's how,
Yes.
as I mentioned to you, because this is something where after a long time I'm getting such an opportunity where we have been thought giving, like as I mentioned, it's a thought process, okay, and thoughts are something which are always broken. And the question before, like in our school days, we before a teacher finishes the question, we'll try to answer it. Either the answer might be wrong or correct. Okay. But when it's correct, we feel proud. The same way here, I'm trying to correlate. So what I wanted to convey here was touching upon our Kannada or Kannadiga or Kannadatana is like, there are two, the formation of Karnataka also that has got its history. So that is being taught and uh, told by our ancestors or through media, or we learn through books, we learn through newspaper, we learn through movies. Okay, there are so many medias, right? And we also learn through from people who have come from different parts of the state. Okay, now that again brings in a very famous actor called as Dr. Rajkumar, whom I'm sure every Kannadiga would know. So that way, why Dr. Rajkumar? Why not other? Again, that has got a reason. So like
Mm.
that, every Kannadiga will always be proud to know how that has been formed. Okay, that is what I just wanted to narrate here. Okay, and coming to the next question, which you just asked about how a person or kids or the generations could be taught or been given an opportunity, and uh, which way is good. I would say, if in my opinion, any way is always good. It's only within us or a person's interest to bring his or her child to give a approach towards that they can give a try to know their mother tongue. And if it is Kannada, that again gives a platform for the child. Although, like, I mean, I can give a live example of being in UK and how we can correlate a child learning in UK because they are already with English and influenced with English. Okay, the culture around they are getting. But if you give a platform for them to learn Kannada, that gives a platform for them to connect back when they travel to India. And that is where, when they interact, they come to learn more. And a child gets more, I can say, gets more, becomes more confident, okay, and gets, because he or the child gets an opportunity to get into diversion of a culture, and that is one place where a learning is always good. And I, in my opinion, learn anything which you want, but ensure you give that opportunity. And here, learning Kannada, which we all are joined together, and as Sunil is also being mentioned, you are one among them, where you set a platform and anything which we go, as I mentioned, each day is a learning. Each year and upon year, we try to do better. Okay, what we did yesterday, we are trying to correct that mistake and learn today. So that is where it's a learning curve, as I mentioned. And that brings us to, like, place where a child is put among 5 to 6 kids, where they interact, like, as we mentioned, like, we're in a platform of Google Meet today, the same platform which gives an opportunity to learn through them. The kid might be in UK, one might be in Belfast, one of the child might be in, say, in Edinburgh, but they still interact, they still connect. Okay, that's how the platform gives them to get into this. And the Kannada Kali gives an opportunity to bring together, and there may be chances that parents get along and talk and then build forward. And that route also, many of them, when we are taught, that has taken back to them where they are from the same place, same school they studied. That is the connect which builds. So anything learning is not bad.
Very true, sir. Very true. And I think, there is a very famous saying which is, Yadeva Vidya Karuti Tadeva Shraddhayo Parishada Tadeva Veeryavataram Bhavati. It means that whatever you're doing, whatever you are putting your kids on to, know what you're doing it to them, or know first about the details of it, and then know the background of it. If you are trying to put your kids into Canada, know why you want to put them into Canada, know what happens if they want, what happens, what's the end result for your kids, like after they learn Canada, what are the positive benefits that they could reap. Have a discussion amongst other parents, have a discussion amongst other faculties who are there, have a discussion, look up on YouTube, there are enough resources, look up for Kannada literature which is available, draw inspiration from there. And inspiration is something which can be drawn from anywhere around us. Nature is a wonderful teacher for us, and I think we should come up with some very innovative ways of teaching ourselves what we have to learn. So I think the last question of this is that, in this ultra modernistic way of thinking, the families also imbibe the nature of ultra modernistic thinking into their lives. And this happens often when all the family meets up in the evening after their works and after the kids' studies are done. In this time, um, how would you suggest, or rather, what activities or what fun activities would you suggest for the family to go through, which would, strengthen their roots in Kannada and Kannada culture?
Okay. So this is something, a question which is quite tough to answer, because again, it is individually as it leaves to the parent. But again, I always talk as an opinion from my end. Okay. So in my opinion, the parents should always connect and bond together. Like, say, like, when you take, for example, the recent which I could recall of Kannada function, or when we all Kannadigas gather, is a festival called as Ugadi. Okay, Ugadi. So when we join, the kid, the first question comes to the mind of a kid is, why is it called Ugadi? What is
Hmm.
the thing of this, or the essence of this festival? What is the thing we do in this festival? All these questions come up, and a child's brain is such a thing, it will be always filled with 100 to 200 questions. And how we are going to answer, the kid is going to flow with that. So this is one best part, or a place when the parents can join together during the gathering. Like, as I gave an example of it, Ugadi. Ugadi festival has got its own rich culture, the food which we eat, why we eat that food, what is the purpose of that, and we take them, the kids, to that. If not, they are with the use of the daily routine food which they have, and this is something which they come to know. Yes, there is something other food also which bonds them, and the kids, when they sit together and eat, that is also one of our culture which we build in a child's, when they grow along, that even sitting together and eating brings the family together and bonds the family members together. And that's the same way when they get together as a culture, as a community, that bonds them forward. And it has helped. A live example again I would like to share is, again, when we play sports like, cricket, the culture when we got into a sort of celebration met us to one of our family member. We never knew they were our far off relatives. Okay, it happened in UK. So the cricket brought us together, and again the food, like nothing like everybody will know. We call masrana. That small one, one tuttu of masrana brought us and bonded us together. And when we spoke, we got to know we're far off relatives, and it gives opportunity to have a function like Satnarayan Puja. Then we met, and I feel proud about it. So this all like why I say it's again our tradition, it's our culture, and Kannadigas meeting and celebrating our Kannada festivals. Okay, it might be Ugadi, it might be okay, Kannada Rajyotsava, it might be Deepavali. Okay, this is one platform which sets a mindset of a child to broaden our culture, Kannadatana, and that slowly brings an interest towards the kid to yes, let me also give an opportunity to learn this. Let me try it out. I may not be like as you rightly mentioned, might not be a profession or might not be a professor, a pandit like what we call or PhD in Kannada, but it gives a person to get along with many of them, and it's that is something which I can always feel proud to say that we need to know and we need to be proud of what we are. Thank you.
Very, sir. Wonderful, wonderful. I think what you touched upon was family coherence in the common goal of connecting back to our roots. And the other one is be opportunistic, and always look for entry points into Canada. So there always, I mean, by Canada, I mean, always look for entry points into connecting to your roots. You may feel that you are already connected to your roots, but there is always scope for more. So and this is and I think I don't want to I don't have any hindrance in saying that one has to be greedy in the way they try to connect to their roots. So this is one place where greedy is an important and a wished for quality. And I think we had a wonderful conversation, and thank you so much for your time, Viru sir. We had a beautiful time together, and I think I really look forward. I have 1,000 more questions to ask you, and I think I can pick your brain on many points. I think the audience also have liked it. And then uh, any final points, any final thoughts from you, sir?
I mean, that's what as I mentioned to you, like I'm a person like may not be like fully having all sort of exposure, all sort of it. But again, I like as you rightly mentioned or touched upon, we always connect like a person always remembers his or her childhood and the days where how they have been brought up, over a period of life, their lifespan. So I would like to thank you for giving me this opportunity. And I feel I was able to answer to the best of my knowledge and the best of my experience, which I underwent or undergone. And I still say it's still a learning curve for me. And I'm sure this would give me, tomorrow again, this, the interaction to get along with another new person to again go along and learn further. Thank you.
Definitely, sir. Thank you so much. And I think what you said is very correct. And then this platform is kind of enabling the feedback loop. What you mentioned, it's a feedback loop of a different kind. And I hope viewers recognize this and then find this useful. With this, thank you so much, Viru sir, for joining us. Uh,
Thank you once again, and thank you for again once again for this opportunity. It's
my
great,
pleasure.
and you are doing a wonderful job. And hope to, I'm sure you would meet a lot of various part in the path of this interview, various professionals or people whom we learn from them through the interactions. And thank you for giving me this opportunity. And wishing you and your the platform which you are doing all the very best. And
Thank
anytime
you.
you feel, please feel free to just buzz me and I'll try to be there to the best of my knowledge.
Always my pleasure, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care.
Take
Cheers.
care, sir. Take care. Take care.